Today you'll meet the cast of the television event that everyone's talking about.
Harry, you might feel a little nauseous at first.
Right.
Mom?
In here, honey.
Wild Palms debuted last night on millions of TV screens across the country. The futuristic thriller that's part soap opera and part science fiction. Some predict it'll become the hottest national obsession since the mystery of who killed Laura Palmer. Here to tell us about her role in Wild Palms, please welcome a wonderful actress, Angie Dickinson. So excited that you're here. The audience is abuzz with the fact that you're here. Let me ask you, in Wild Palms, you are playing a really nasty woman, a sexy, sadistic, murderous. Oh, she loves this.
And that's the first night.
I mean, you're like America's little sweetheart. You're adored. This is a real stretch for you.
Well, I have had a few movies before Policewoman where I was quite naughty, to say the least. I've two-timed a lot of men. But this is beyond bitch.
Which only means that it's a greater challenge for you?
Well, it's not so, well, I guess challenge would be a word. We all, you all know that if you're always playing the bad roles, you must want to play the good roles, and vice versa. Whatever you do a lot, you like to do occasionally the opposite. And so it's nice when you often play the heroine, as I do, playing a female cop, to play a real villain. And as you might have seen already, I'm really bad, but I get worse.
You get worse?
Yeah, wait till four nights, you know.
Stay tuned through Wednesday it ends, actually. This has been compared, you've heard all the comparisons between Wild Palms and Twin Peaks. How do you respond to that?
I don't find a comparison at all, other than both are fabulous quality production, and they're just not ordinary. They're not what you see more of, even though I have nothing against conventional a movie of the week if it's good quality. But these are just unique premises and unique stories. That's the only similarity I find to Twin Peaks.
Okay, you work with a wonderful cast, including some of the fine actors we're going to be meeting on this broadcast.
Yeah.
But you also play Dana Delaney's mother. Now, how do you really describe your role within this plot?
The clip you're going to see? You know, this is a show you have to stick with, because it deliberately, gradually unfolds. It is soap opera in that regard. Now, wait a minute, is he or is she? So, by this time, Dana is wondering why her boy keeps looking at her oddly. And she knows about the fact that my political faction kidnaps children. And so about this time, she's trying to find out the truth about her son. And I'm very flip about it, you know. And so I come to visit her. She's drinking more and sleeping more and just staying in more and getting more and more depressed at this point. That's about all I can explain.
Well, let's take a look.
All right.
Who decided which children would be taken? I already told you. Was it you and the senator? We didn't sanction any of it.
Liar!
I just want to know one thing. Who is that little boy? The one I've called my own.
You're insane. Just like Eli Levitt.
Who is he, Mother? You tell me. I want to know. And I want to know what they did to my baby.
Nasty, very nasty. And
I
it
don't
gets
give
worse.
her much consolation. She's a wonderful actress, by the way, and she's incredible through these whole 4 nights.
Lovely thing to say.
It's true.
You have had incredible longevity in a very mercurial kind of business. How do you explain that?
I don't really explain it. I'm just so grateful that I still work, even though I've gotten to this age. I mean, everybody knows I've been around 100 years, and you know, occasionally there is a role that's wonderful that isn't the leading lady, and she doesn't have to be 30 and in her prime. And hopefully they'll come to me more and more often. I think Policewoman had a lot to do with it, that people like my, what I bring them.
What do you think you bring them?
I don't know. It's a whole mixture. I don't know. I don't analyze it. I just pray a lot that it keeps up.
It certainly has kept up. You also were given credit for being a pioneer, a groundbreaker in your own right with Policewoman, because there's such a dearth of roles for women anyway in Hollywood, and you helped sort of really create the push for more dramatic parts.
Yeah. Well, it did help. There was no woman starring in an hour dramatic show up until 1974. We had Carol Burnett and Mary Tyler Moore, but no dramatic role. And they weren't so sure mine would succeed because nothing had yet, but it did. And so it was at the beginning of the feminist movement, so it just coincided with it. The whole thing was right together. Women were wanting more women's stories at that time.
Let me ask you, because people really do see you as a sex symbol. You're a beautiful woman. Men absolutely love you. My father's very excited that you're on the show today. Been
Hi,
a long-time
Daddy.
fan, okay? And yet you are, you know, we all age, and there seems to be fewer roles for women who are aging. And yet you seem very comfortable with the fact that you're going to what? Be playing mothers and possibly even grandmothers?
I can't change that. I can't be, as we all would love to be, a certain age. I mean, obviously. So I'm very content to work. I'm very content to still have people who love my work. And a grandmother doesn't even bother me as long as I look all right. I don't care what they call me.
Absolutely fantastic. There you go. All right. You sort of burst into the headlines a little bit during the whole Murphy Brown Dan Quayle flap, because it's my understanding you came out on the side of then Vice President Dan Quayle.
Well, gee, it wasn't during it. Had they asked me during it, I'd have said the same thing, but I was traveling to my home state of North Dakota, and they asked me a bit about Hollywood, and it was a little after all that flap, and I just said, I think that Hollywood got its dander up, and I think Vice President Quayle was misquoted. Now, you know, we all know he made his flubs, but don't condemn the man for something he didn't do for a change. And he wrote me a letter saying, I hope it doesn't ruin your career that you've said something nice about me. Isn't that great? And so I just feel, you know, just don't misrepresent what people say. And they took it as a slam, and it wasn't. He just said, let's not make single motherhood the best form.
In other words, you didn't want to glorify single motherhood.
I think that's all he was saying, is don't glorify it. Yes, he was trying to say keep a family if you can, and instead they took it as a direct hit, and I don't think he meant it that way.
You've also been in the public eye, as many people know, because of your work on behalf of Alzheimer's research.
Yeah.
Why is that cause so important to you?
Well, it's particularly important to me because my sister, who is only 2 years older than I am, has had it now for 8 years, and it's the most devastating disease, and it's bad enough when it comes when you're older, but something like 7 million Americans have it, and it's a disease that is so difficult to cope with that I feel that the more people who know about it and recognize it when it does come into their families or into their loved one's circle, they'll be able to know about it and therefore be kinder towards the victim.
It's a hard thing to go through.
It's horrible.
Any family illness is.
Yes.
Switching gears a little bit, you've also had more than your fair share of headlines and attention because you're always linked with these famous guys.
Yes!
I don't know what it is, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. At one point, you said that, you know, your taste in men are as different as your taste in food.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Don't respond now, okay?
Okay.
We're gonna take a break. We're gonna ask you about that. I'm gonna meet more of the cast from Wild Palms when we come back. We'll be back. We're back talking with Angie Dickinson, one of the stars of the controversial TV event series Wild Palms, and we're about to find out about your love life. Your love life, right?
Wild Palms is much more interesting than my love life.
We'll let the audience decide. You want to talk about Wild Palms or her love life? All right. Somehow a predictable answer. We could mention names: Frank Sinatra, Glenn Ford, Larry King. The list goes on.
Pretty
goes
good.
on.
Pretty good, Bill.
Now, I had read a quote from you where you said you really follow your heart, not your head, when it comes to men.
Oh, you can tell that by the car I drive.
What does that mean?
Well, I don't get money. I get love. And I have an ordinary car.
So it was always for love. Mm-hmm. Always for love. You never went after the big bucks.
No, I wish I had.
Oh, come on, you're not serious.
Yes, I am.
Are you really? You regret that you didn't sort of...
I regret that I wasn't a little wiser and a little bit, well...
wealthier, somebody in the audience just said.
Yeah, no, but you know, hindsight is easy. But I did not choose carefully. I could easily have loved a couple of those other fellas that would have given me some jewelry or cars.
But don't you feel good about the fact that you've always called your own shots? You've retained your independence. You're your own person.
I guess so.
Okay.
I'm half playing with you, but it really does make you later on think, well, now, wait a minute. I should have gotten something for all those eggs I fried.
You were married the second time, was it, to composer Burt Bacharach?
Mm-hmm.
And that marriage didn't last. Why do you think?
Oh, dear me. There were lots of reasons why it didn't last, but part of the reason is I did go into policewoman right about the time he was not at his high point. That's deadly. And I was very successful, and he had quite a time getting back on top, and which indeed he did do with some wonderful songs, but that didn't help. And also, I was away at work, he was on the road, and oh, it's all kind of, you know.
I know. The clash of egos, or the clash of people's careers. His was sort of, as you said, faltering, and yours was going great guns.
Yeah, and he was a night person, I was a day person, and you know, I have a feeling even without Policewoman, we probably wouldn't have lasted, because he's pretty gorgeous, and that's not easy, you know, when they're on the road and you're home baking cookies.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Frying eggs, now you're a cookie baker? Is she serious or what? All right, one last question before we go to the audience, because I know they have questions. You have a wonderful daughter, Nikki.
Uh-huh. And that's Bert's. He did give me that.
Oh, wonderful. What is she studying to do?
Nikki is studying geology, and she wants to be a seismologist. She loves the study of earthquakes.
Fascinating.
And she's drawing A's, so I'm very proud of her.
Okay. Questions in the audience? You had one over here. I'm going to start with you. You want to stand up for me?
Oh, yes. Let me first say that I'm a tremendous fan of yours.
Thank you.
And I'm wondering how you feel about the discrepancy that exists between the salaries of actors and actresses.
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't know that it does exist, but I read what you read. If you deserve a chunk of the profits, I think you're going to get them. I think Jack Nicholson deserves $85 million a picture. Whatever. What does he get? 4 or 5 million a picture? He deserves it because we go to see him in the pictures. And if you can't promise to draw, then I don't find the difference. But I'm not a feminist, and I am for women, but I'm not against men.
Oh! There's a definition of feminist. All right.
And it's actually a two-parter. Are men intimidated by your success?
Me? No.
Are men intimidated by your success?
No, not at all. I don't have that kind of success.
She doesn't see herself that way. You sound very down to earth. There was another one up here. Who had one over here? Back here. Stand up for me.
Sure. I wanted to know, Angie, whether, well, first of all, whether you still study, actively take acting lessons, and who are your mentors?
I don't still study, and I should. Earl Holliman was my partner on Policewoman, and he still studies, and he always says, you've got to come to this class, you've got to come to class. I have a singing teacher who is my guru.
Okay. And there was one more over here. You want to stand up in the hat? Yes.
I wanted to come and ask Angie, I've always admired you, and I never thought I would see you in person.
Thank
I'm really
you.
glad I came.
It's a thrill.
Yes,
You
it
and my
is.
father. Maybe she'll bake us some cookies. What do you think?
Or fry us an egg.
Fry us an egg. Who knows? All right. Next, the actor who danced on the piano with Tom Hanks in the blockbuster movie Big. Now he's playing a vicious villain in Wild Palms. Actor Robert Loggia joins us when we return. We'll be back.
On Tuesday's Jane Whitney. Could this woman be the next David Koresh? Cult experts say yes.
Hours a day you do that?
At least 2 to 3 hours a day.
Look inside a cult with hundreds of followers, guns, security forces, bomb shelters.
They've got 7 years worth of food.
Is it another Waco in the making?
If they're pushed up against the wall, I think they'll crack.
On Jane Whitney, Tuesday.
Angie Dickinson has abandoned her policewoman image to play the sexy, sadistic villainess in the TV event series Wild Palms. My next guest plays her evil big brother. Please welcome actor Robert Loggia. You walked in and the audience erupted into spontaneous applause. How does that make you feel?
Makes me feel like I have a lot of friends out there. It feels terrific.
You do indeed. How would you describe, because I mean I've read so many reviews of Wild Palms, how would you describe your character?
Well, for openers, they say a tie ball game is like kissing your sister, and since Angie is my sister, it's a pretty good deal. She is something else to kiss and hug. We have a very close relationship in this film, as you'll find out as it unwinds. And indeed, all the relationships in this miniseries are quite convoluted, and it requires a certain attention span that's beyond a 10-minute break to get another beer. It's quite a vision on the part of Bruce Wagner. And as they say, if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage. And indeed, this piece of work is like a trampoline, and it's futuristic. And when you hit it, you're in orbit. And in executing the miniseries, in the first 2 hours, we kept saying, well, where is this going? And Bruce would enigmatically smile and say, you'll find out. So we had to keep the faith and keep playing along with it.
So it's like being in a soap opera. We've heard actors say that they never really know what's going to be happening to their character.
We had no idea where it was going.
You had no idea where it was going either.
Right. In fact, I saw the final 3 hours just last night, and I'm really blown away by it. It's a hell of an effort.
What about, I mean, you play this character, this charismatic, powerful, you know, lust for power
right.
figure.
It doesn't exist in our country and in the world. Think of L. Ron Hubbard, think of Ross Perot, think of many of the multimedia figures. And in terms of religion or powerful figures, whether it's Saddam Hussein or Bill Clinton, you know, these are powerful men who deal with media, deal with influencing the public, if not the world, and these are larger-than-life people that exist. It's not something that's dreamed up and saying, well, you have to suspend credibility. It's a very credible character.
I was surprised because I always thought of you, and I said this to you backstage when I met you, as somebody who just always worked all the time. You've been acting
stiff, right.
for 40 years.
Right.
And yet you went through your own, whether it was midlife, you went through your own sort of lull, your own sort of crisis. What was that about?
Well, if there's a man or a woman in this audience, if not in the world, who hasn't gone through a crisis of some sort in their life, then they're not worth their salt as people. Usually you hit at some point in your life saying, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? That might embody the marriage that you have, the work that you have, whatever. And you usually change course. Sometimes you have to abandon ship and swim for it, or, you know, adjust in any manner or form that's indigenous to your particular life. In my life, it hit me when I was 38 years old or so, and it lasted for a while. I lived in a tree for a while.
You literally lived in a tree?
Came down enjoying the world again.
Nothing would surprise me. But you were at the beginning of your career, I'm told, stereotyped in Italian-American kinds of roles, the macho mobster kinds of roles. And then, I mean, I know you as a terrific character actor.
Right.
But you made this transition when?
Well, that transition really started, I've had a great second half. And that began really with Officer and a Gentleman back in 1980. And it started off a spate of character roles that went across ethnic lines and allowed me to really have a fine time as an actor.
Jagged Edge, you were nominated for an Oscar.
Right.
Prizzi's Honor.
Prizzi's Honor was great.
Scarface. The list goes on and on and on.
Thank you.
And then you had this wonderful movie, Big, with Tom Hanks.
Right, that was great.
And this fantastic scene in FAO Schwartz. What happened behind the scenes on that scene?
Well, that was a real happening. You know, it's funny because when they saw the rushes, after we did it, you know, to get the rushes, the dailies, and the writers actually came back and said, you know, you've just made a classic piece of film here. I said, well, this is just hyperbole. Come on now. I said, no, really. It's going to be like Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly in some kind of classic piece of film. I said, well, that's terrific. I said, well, but let me tell you what happened. The script said there's going to be a 30-foot piano that would light up and hit notes, and we would do a dance routine of heart and soul and chopsticks. And Penny Marshall gave us a cardboard cutout, she said, of this, and a cassette of heart and soul and chopsticks. And she said, Bob, you work it out while you're in L.A., and Tom, we'll be in New York together, and you work it out and get your, you work it out without a choreographer, just the way you would do it, because the notes were labeled. So I laid it out in my backyard, and I worked out how it would go. And my two dogs, which led to some pretty fancy footwork, as a matter of fact. So when we got to New York, they hired FAO Schwartz on a Sunday, and lo and behold, there was the piano, and Tom and I brought it off. And what the film caught was a happening of our incredible enjoyment that we were actually bringing this routine off in our own fashion as actors, not dancers. In fact, they had two professional dancers standing by. They didn't think Tom and I were going to be able to do it. They were going to shoot these guys from the waist down. So once they did the first take, they sent these guys home. They said, take a hike.
You're talking.
So we did it.
One take scene. We're going to jump in with another break. Next, two more cast members from the TV series Wild Palms. You'll know them from their roles in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle and Under Siege. Nick Mancuso and Ernie Hudson are next. We'll be back. If you're a wife and mother who's happy to stay at home, but your husband is pressuring you to get a job and you resent him for it, please call 1-800-370-2712. We're back with a cast of the much-talked-about TV series Wild Palms that's airing through Wednesday night. You probably recognize Nick Mancuso from his other TV series Stingray and action movies like Under Siege and Rapid Fire. And actor Ernie Hudson created the memorable role of the handyman in the hit movie The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. All right. Ernie, you also did a little ghost busting in your time, in your career.
Yeah, I did the 2 Ghostbusters.
Now, was there any, once you finished both Ghostbusters, was there any kind of like, you know, this typecasting stuff we hear about, that it was tough to get a dramatic part after that?
It was just hard to get a job after that.
Oh, come on. You can write your own ticket.
No, it was, no, I don't think it was, because it wasn't really a type. Ghostbusters' character was very close to me. No, it wasn't a problem that way. I think there was a period, and it always has been whenever I've been involved with something that's really been successful, of a couple of years where things just didn't seem to be happening, and then things really caught on. I did, I think, 8 films in a row, but it took me like 2.5 years to finally get the next film after the first Ghostbusters. So there's always that lull, and then you know.
I mean, it's hard to believe after successes, because you've had very successful movies, that you can't just write your own ticket. Are you saying you can?
Well, that's what I thought. I mean, I had the pen ready. I was, you know, I mean, but yeah, I guess it's a period. Maybe it's just an adjustment that things are sort of changing. I've been very busy the past year, but after Cradle, it was a while, you know.
And what did you think of that role? Was it Solomon in Hand That Rocks the Cradle?
Solomon in The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, yeah. I mean, sometimes you do things that you're always attracted to a project for a certain reason, be it the people involved or the character. But I really liked the character of Solomon, and I really, I spent a lot of time with people who were mentally disabled. And they're very loving people. And this was a character who I personally felt very close to. And it was a character that I'd wanted to portray a lot of the qualities that he had. It was interesting that he was handicapped, but I liked him, and hopefully, and I think the audience did too. I run into people who saw it and really
A lot of agreement on that point. Let me ask you, you play what role in Wild Palms? What is your part?
In Wild Palms, I play a character named Tommy, who's part of the Friends, and we're the opposition. We're the guys against those guys.
We're the good guys.
We're the good guys, and so that's what he's.
And David Warner. David Warner.
Yeah, David.
As well.
Yeah, is one of us. And he's a businessman. In the beginning, he starts off that way, and then we find that he's involved with Nick and the things that are happening, you know, on that side.
And Ernie, aren't you best friend of Jim Belushi?
Yeah,
and best friends of Jim Belushi.
We work on Jim Belushi trying to get him out of
Very good.
Everybody's after Jim.
Now, this was shot in fairly fast order, considering how long it could have taken. I'm told, at least, that you shot it pretty quickly.
All television is pretty quick.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Now, did you develop camaraderie with your because you work with a wonderful cast? Did you?
I don't know these guys.
You don't?
No. I think we all had a very good group of people, and.
You always say that.
Well, no, it was really. I think that this project for me, it was. I think more than maybe the character, the people involved were people I respected a lot, like these people here. I mean, I really have an enormous amount of respect, and I really wanted to be a part of it, and that's why I did it. I think.
And you had a wonderful time with Nick?
Had a wonderful time with Nick. Nick's great.
Well, we worked, 3 days together, I think.
But that's, you know, actors don't really, we don't really work, we don't work a lot. I mean, if I add up all the days I work, I might work, you know, I mean, 3 weeks out of a year. You know, you've been on a project, but the actual work time is not a lot.
All right, well, now, your role was Tully in Wild Palms?
Tully Wywood, yeah, this sort of bizarre neo-expressionist artist of the year 2009.
I think we need a translation on that. What does that mean?
A bizarre neo-expressionist artist.
Thank you. All right.
He's sort of I liked him because he was kind of as soon as Bruce Wagner told me about the character, and he immediately appealed to me without reading the script. Because there were these parameters in the piece. Like at one point he ends up getting, you know, he gets blinded by this lovely lady, plucks out his eyes, and I thought, as soon as he said that he was going to get his eyes plucked out, I said, I want to play this part. You know?
That's what did it, eh?
That's a role.
That's a role.
How often do you get to play a part like that, you know? So
Oedipus Rex.
Exactly, another person from India, and that's the last time I think that. But anyway, so I liked his tack on things. He's a guy who's searching for a certain kind of freedom. You know, he's not really part of the system. And he sort of rationalizes it because he is a painter, because he's an artist. He's not going to fall into sort of like the mindset that everybody's in. It's like this puritanical society, you know, where everybody's, you know.
You're very analytical about all this.
Well, I guess so.
Were you a psychology major?
Yeah.
All right, thought so.
But I studied little white rats, and the little white rats are very analytical.
All right. Got it someplace. We have a clip of your role. You want to set it up for us?
I think this is the scene where, after I've been blinded, I confront Belushi's character, and I try to turn him around. I think this is one, because I was just told about it. So it's in the middle of it. Turn it on. I mean,
it'll be great, whatever it is.
Yes.
They got Deirdre. Left Grace for dead at the old bathhouse. We patched her up like news, so stop worrying. What do you think of the club?
Fabulous.
The Wilder Zone has its own laws. Cops, stay away. Easy for a blind artist and his fugitive friends to blend in.
I know what Grace was going through. I know why she was cracking up. I don't want to sit around anymore.
What do you want to do, Harry? Throw Molotovs?
Ooh, very spooky. And next, the creator of Wild Palms joins us. Is he tired of his series being compared to Twin Peaks? We'll find out when we come back. We'll be back. We'd like to hear from you. Send your letter in care of Jane Whitney, Columbus Circle, Post Office Box 20314, New York, New York, 10023. The new TV event series Wild Palms is being compared with the cult sensation Twin Peaks. How does the show's creator feel about that? We're about to get the answer from executive producer and Wild Palms writer Bruce Wagner. Here he is. You know, I'm coming out fighting here because why is it whenever anybody tries to do something cutting edge or innovative, people always have to find a label for it?
Well, Twin Palms, I mean... When I created Wild Peaks, we knew we were going to get comparisons like that. Lynch is, you know, I revere Lynch. The fact that it was ABC, the same network that brought Twin Peaks, and that we were also an unusual series that was associated with a world-class film director, Oliver Stone, and that the story we were going to tell was not going to be Magnum P.I. People suddenly thought, oh, it's a spin-off. You know what I mean?
Well, does this like bug you at all?
No, it
really
doesn't. No, it doesn't, because once you see our show, I guess it would bother me if our show was like Twin Peaks. Then I would start to get, you know.
Okay, rumor has it the network was trying to avoid sort of the pitfall of what happened to Twin Peaks, which was basically they stayed too long at the fair after, you know, people figured out who killed Laura Palmer.
Yeah.
You folks are wrapping it up in...
Yeah, it's the guest that won't leave syndrome. What they did with us is they gave us a mandate. They said, we want everything to be resolved. We want the storyline to be resolved. We want the characters to have resolution. In fact, there were certain characters that I wanted to live. You know, it's like that, what is that, Susan Hayward movie, I Want to Live? And they said, no, you know, finish them off. So...
Okay, but... So it basically does conclude Wednesday night.
Yeah, it has an absolute conclusion. It's, you know, it's very much like a novel in that way. Everything gets pulled together, and all the characters and the plots and subplots get resolved.
Does this mean it doesn't leave the door open for some, I mean, you know, with the overwhelming success it's going to have, that you want to, you know, reincarnate it in some form?
Well, now that you say that, we are planning... no, I mean, the idea was no, you know, that's it. That's the whole idea of the limited event series. That's the new genre. It's no.
Why can't I call it a mini-series? It must be called an event series. What's the difference between an event series and a mini-series?
You must call it a limited event. I don't know.
You don't know?
It's just, I think it's a way that the network kind of, it's almost what my ambition was in this, was to do something close to what Dennis Potter does for British television. It was to create a series that's not so short that it's just 2 nights, and yet something that doesn't go on and on and on. Something, I wanted to create a kind of garish, kind of Americanized version of Singing Detective or Pennies from Heaven, something that Potter did in England. And that was my ambition. And I wanted to make a soap opera, because I'm a huge soap aficionado. I wanted to make something close to Dynasty and
You've got
Knots
everything
Landing.
in there.
Yeah. Everything. There's a game show in there. I also wanted to do an animal documentary, which I think I've done.
I mean,
also.
Jim Belushi, I don't remember the whole quote, but he said it's like 30-something from hell is in there, and Donna Reed gets stabbed, and I mean, there's just like, even he couldn't figure it out. That's what he said. It was a quote.
It's great humor.
Donna Reed gets stabbed. I like that.
You didn't read this? All right.
It's like, and why didn't she?
Let me ask you the last thing. In terms of, because everybody also looks for like a message, because this isn't, as you said, Magnum PI. It's, you know, a little tough to follow. You got to stick with it. You're going to be compelled to stick with it. But what do you see? Is there a message? Were you trying to send a message?
No message at all.
There we are. Okay, straight from the horse's mouth back here. What did you have over here?
I just wanted to know if this is something we can look forward to seeing more and more in television, because I see that most of you are film actors, and Angie, who I love, also is television. I highly admire you trying to become an actress myself. But I just wanted to know if this is something we can look forward to in the age of television now, because so many more things are happening, like with Tribeca, if I'm allowed to say that, with Robert De Niro's and Oliver Stone's coming up with Wild Palms. Is this something we can look forward to?
Yeah, I mean, with technology now, there's a lot of talk in the press about how there will be 500 channels and fiber optic cables that will come into the home. And in fact, on Wild Palms, we create a sitcom called Church Windows, which is really a crappy sitcom. But it's the first revolutionary show that appears in your living room, just like we are on the stage. We don't do it with special effects. It's holographic television over those cables. I think that directors, it's no coincidence that now feature film directors and feature film actors are moving to television. Francis Coppola recently said that television was the future of film. And I think that all the barriers and the walls are coming down, and that the networks are paying attention to that.
Okay. You agree with that, everybody? Who knows? Okay, we'll be back. Another break. We're back now with the cast and the creator of Wild Palms, and you had a question.
Yes, I have a question for Mr. Loja. I'm a very big fan of yours, and one of the reasons is because of your distinctive voice. I was wondering if you ever did radio, or how did you develop this particular style?
I'm not conscious of having a distinctive voice, but I'm a product of New York City. I went to PS1. That's the Lower East Side of New York. My parents were immigrant Italians. My mother was a stickler for speaking properly, though, and my father, even though he arrived in this country and spoke at a late age and spoke broken English, insisted that I have my nose in a book quite a bit, and it was a tight, very disciplined family. So that's maybe why I mind my P's and Q's. And there's opera, right? And
boy, certainly paid off. All right, stand up over here. You had something.
Yes, I would like to ask Ernie, is he married, and if so, does he have any children?
Yeah, I'm married. I'm very married. I love being married. I'm so married I can't tell you. And I have 4 sons. I have four sons.
You've got 4 sons ranging with this wild, you know, age gap.
Yeah.
How old's your youngest?
My youngest is 4. And I have Ross is 4, Andrew's 5, Rockman is 24, and Ernest is 27. He worked on the show.
You had a little something going on there in the middle too, didn't you? All right. Yeah, back up here.
He's 27. 27.
Stand up.
Soon be 28.
Hi, I wanted to ask Ernie, was there ever a role that you really wanted to play that you just couldn't get your hands on? I mean, you played in Ghostbusters and you transitioned yourself through all these different types of characters, but there was ever a role that you wanted to play that you just couldn't get on to?
Yeah, they call it the starring role.
I have to tell people, because I think this is so impressive, that you got a full scholarship to the Yale Drama School.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time studying, I think. When you decide to do something, I think you want to lay a foundation really strong enough because you want to be around a while.
Absolutely.
Okay. You want to
Yes. Nick, I love your show, Stingray, and I don't know what happened to you after that.
It turned into Matrix. It still runs, actually. We only shot a total of 24, and they kept playing those 24 over and over again. It's playing in Europe, and there is a chance it might come back, and I'm thinking about it.
Okay. So you're missed. You were missed.
Hi. I just wanted to know if any one of you have ever done any nude scenes in the movies, and what was it like?
Well, yes, I...
Look at this little face. Would you have guessed she would have said this? I'm shocked.
I did a nude story conference.
Obviously, when the cameras weren't rolling. Anybody here ever?
I have an interesting anecdote about Officer and a Gentleman. If you recall the first scene in the movie, I'm in the sack with two ladies, and Richard Gere is sitting at the foot of the bed looking at his dirty old man, as it were, in the sack. But we actually shot 2 days in the buff, Richard and I and these two gals, and it was so strong they cut it out of the movie.
My God. We'll be back. We'll be back. Hold on. Yeah? If you're a wife and mother who's happy to stay at home, but your husband is pressuring you to get a job and you resent him for it, please call 1-800-370-2712. We have about a minute left in this broadcast with the cast and creator of Wild Palms, and I didn't get a reaction from you, Angie, about the nude scenes.
What?
You?
Yeah, I did my share. I gave it the office.
I want to say to Ernie, I've watched the And That Rock the Cradle 8 times, and I think it's the best movie and enjoy watching. I hope you produce one more soon.
That's very sweet. Thank you. Very good. All right. Back up here. Yeah.
I have a question for Ms. Dixon. What is her favorite co-actor?
Leading man, favorite co-star?
Who, me?
You.
Oh, all of them. I don't have a favorite. It's like food. They're all wonderful.
She's such a diplomat on top of all this.
It's true, though.
Okay, last word here. What's the last word? Back here, stand up, yeah.
Okay, this is from Angie. What was the first character you ever played when you first started acting? What was your first role that you ever got?
I think it was just a boring next-door neighbor. Something. It was not. You don't start out very big. You work up to it, if you're lucky, as I was.
We've been very lucky to have all of you join us, and it's been a real pleasure meeting you. We thank you. We thank our audience. Everybody watch Wild Palms through Wednesday night. Don't miss it. We'll see you back here. Have a great day. Take care. For a transcript of our show, please send $5 along with the program name, subject, and air date to Burrell's Transcripts, Post Office Box 7, Livingston, New Jersey, 07039. For a video cassette, call 1-800-4-VIDEO.